So you have a tender rate and your love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trace and some super glamping. One ideas, deep news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints Podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DeMoss Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Good afternoon, Phil. Good day here in New England. Raining, pouring, and if you guys see me disappear from your screen, it's because we lost power.
So is it a local storm or is it in the region or what?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's been raining just nonstop since I've been back from Oregon. To be honest with you, it's crazy.
I want to start the show off by shouting somebody out, congratulating them. 93-year-old Everett Kalin, who recently became the oldest person on record to climb Yosemite National Park's legendary Half Dome. So shout out to him.
That's a big shout out. That is awesome.
Right. It's always great to see someone doing it at that age. They haven't shut it down.
at any age, to be honest, it's quite a feat, right?
Are you familiar with a vehicle called the Roxor, ROXOR, from a company called Mahindra?
No.
Mahindra, rather.
Mahindra, yes. Indian company.
Exactly.
Yes, I've seen them in person, actually. Yes.
I was confident about that.
Yep.
As you know, very similar to a Jeep.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Eastern District Court of Michigan, they ruled this week that Fiat Chrysler, who now owns Mahindra, just cut to the chase. There's enough difference in designs now in the vehicle that they can now start selling it in America.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
And basically, the only reason why we haven't had them all over America years ago is because of all the litigation that's prevented them from bringing those vehicles here.
Right.
So I think it's a great thing. I'm always excited about competition.
It's going to be a lot of it too. I mean, there was a big, there were a bunch of lawsuits over the what do you call it, for the Land Rover and the new
Ineos
Grenadier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously was cleared as well. So that, is becoming available. And there's just so many new brands with all of the electric cars and stuff. And, the Tesla just released or just came off the production line, the new truck, the Cybertruck. So you're going to be seeing that on the road shortly. I actually just saw an article. Holy hell, it is raining here. This is just nuts. I just saw them testing the Tesla semi-rig, the tractor trailer. So interesting stuff coming.
Well, that's a great segue into my insider info segment. Don't know how often that'll be. I just happen to have some insider info in this particular situation. There are actually people who worked on the original Tesla that live in my neighborhood.
Really?
really. And they have inside info, and they were telling me that there's at least 10 new electric SUVs coming to market in 2024.
Wow.
Some are coming from completely new companies that you've never heard of, and some are new products from companies you already know.
Yeah.
So the immediate question that popped up in my mind, because they were kind of pretty much bragging on themselves with some inside info or whatever. But I was like, okay, so when is the tech coming?
Yep.
That's well and good. All these other companies are jumping in, but when is there going to be an improvement on range? When is there going to be an improvement on charging time? When is there going to be a big movement toward some kind of infrastructure for electric vehicles? So until then, I'm not excited. I'm not excited that there's 10 more SUVs. Hold on one second.
Well, because his problem is there's 10 more SUVs that can go, a limited range. Yeah. Yeah, nowhere. Or at least not on that dirt road that's sitting behind my head here. They're not going there. I can tell you that. Not coming back out.
But it is interesting. It's also a sign that they're definitely full blown going in this direction. 10, that's just SUVs. One class, one segment.
Yep.
10
brands.
brands.
It's good to see, because for a long time it was just, I'm going to call it little ugly cars. They were just ugly, right? Not to rain on anybody's parade, but like the Prius, that thing reminds me. That thing reminds me of it, and that's not even electric, right? That's a hybrid, but it reminds me of like the old Pontiac Aztec.
It looks like a Pinto with angles.
Yeah. Hope everybody out there drives a Prius. I don't know. We probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast anyways.
So on a personal note, I have an issue with Prius owners. Not all of them. I know some great Prius owners. But have you ever, and you probably have experienced this with your giant vehicle. I'm just in a Jeep, right? They'll slow up on purpose to make me slow down. I've had a lot of interactions with Prius owners that, they think they're doing the environment some justice.
I actually got yelled at a Prius owner. True story. Many years ago now, it was like, I don't know, probably 8 years ago. I got yelled at by a Prius owner in a Whole Foods parking lot. Go figure, right? And she just got out of the car and she starts mouthing off to me and telling me like, I can't believe you're driving. At the time I was driving the Unimog, which I got to talk about in a second. I was driving the Unimog and she was like, you're ruining the environment and blah 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 blah. I'm out of the blue. I didn't say anything. I just got out of the truck. So
that is such a first world story right there.
Of course. Yeah.
At the Whole Foods.
Of course. It was at the Whole Foods. I learned after that, I don't go to Whole Foods in that town any longer because I know everybody that goes in there is, I don't know, they're a piece of work. Let's just put it that way. Anyways, that's our politics for today.
So, Mike, I have some disturbing news.
Uh-oh.
Most small pickups fall short when it comes to protecting passengers seated in the rear. The latest crash test ratings from Insurance Institute for Highway Safety show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the whole thing. You can go to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. They're online. You can find this information very easily. But basically, none of the top pickups had decent backseat protection.
Right.
And those include the Ford Ranger, the Nissan Frontier, the Chevrolet Colorado, the Jeep Gladiator, the Toyota Tacoma. So basically, the top selling vehicles in that segment, none of them have very decent protection and these are only the crew cabs. The regular pickup is fine. It's the crew cab versions.
Right. Yeah, the four-door.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So interestingly enough, we wanted to talk about safety today a little bit, ironically. We just segued out of that. Got some sad news and bad news to report. I was at dinner last night and I started getting text messages saying, hey, are you okay? I see that the Drive the Globe truck was in an accident. And of course, I was like, oh, and of course I'm thinking my truck is at paint. I hope they didn't take it out from the paint shop. Anyways, I assumed, and then they said, no, I saw it on the side of the road in California. So I was like, oh no. And then I'm thinking it was my last truck that I just sold. The one that's behind me in the picture here, because he's in Carson City, Nevada, which is right on the California line. Any case, it was not. As it turns out, sadly, it was V2, and I had just literally put out a YouTube video talking about my 4 versions of my orange Drive the Globe truck. And you and I, Phil, both talked with them and saw the truck and trailer at the Overland Expo Pacific Northwest. Well, apparently, and I don't have much information on this. What I will tell you is that the wife and the daughter were in it, going down a hill in California near, in Tahoe area, so mountainous area. And I don't know what the details are, but the truck, I have confirmed with people that reported it, seeing it, that it rolled, and they were both injured, not badly. So they're both okay. Thank God. So shout out to you guys for, that's awful. And I'm glad that nobody got seriously injured in this, but it brought up the topic. So I just wanted to put that news out there. So it sounds like version 2 is no longer, I don't know, from what I've heard, it's pretty bad, because I mean, if it rolled on its side, it must not be too good.
Well, if they're all right, I could care less about version 2.
And that's my point. But it segues into some safety stuff, because I had heard early reports possibly they lost brakes or something. And now knowing that that's a truck that has air-assisted brakes, and you're going down a lot, if there was a lot of hills involved, possibly the air tank was running low. It brought up a whole mess of ideas in my head. But what I wanted to talk about was, I think oftentimes people get in their Tacoma, or they get in their Jeep, or they get in a truck like mine, and they seem, because it's some big overland rig, it's invincible. And quite the contrary. You and I talked about that, I think, last week, that they're usually overweight. In this case, you and I were even talking about pulling a trailer last year. Totally changes the dynamic. And if you're going down a steep hill with a very heavy trailer pushing on you from behind, whether the brakes failed or there was inadequate brakes or what the scenario is, who knows? But it brings up to mind, you're talking about safety on 4-door pickup trucks. Just because you put your Alubox, habitat on the back, or a Scout or whatever you're doing, and you got this great overland rig, they're not invincible. And you can get into a wreck, and many people, made me think about some of the people I know that are in the van life and bus community, schoolies and whatnot. This is their home too. So you got to think about all these things. You got to be pretty careful out on the road, because not only is it your truck, it's your adventure dream, right? And it also could be, in my case, it could be your house. So all of that was going through my mind last night. But I don't know the details on that accident yet, so I can't really say. But I do know it was in Northern California.
And a reality about the weight, ain't nobody going to listen to us. Everybody's going to put a bunch of stuff in their vehicle, including me.
Yeah.
So at least upgrade your brakes.
And, all things come in like that. It's brakes, it's tires, it's suspension, it's, all of the above. People were asking me, hey, Mike, why did you go to this 6-wheel drive? Holy hell. Did you hear that?
I heard that. That sounded like the house was falling down.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that sounded like the lightning hit in the backyard.
You see what we do, guys, to get this podcast out to you?
That's right.
Rain, sleet, or snow.
That's right. What was I talking about? But no, I mean, people ask about the 6-wheel drive, which I obviously didn't really want to do, but it does afford me an extra layer of safety with 4 wheels in the back. If I had a tire blowout, as example, you had a tire blowout and something that's super heavy, and unfortunately, some of us have had this happen. I actually had it on version 1. I was going down through upstate New York, and a tire blew out, front tire. And I went, if there was any cars there, I would have hit everybody, but I went flying off the road into the median, and it happened to be fairly flat. It was down a little bit of a bank, and I got stuck in the middle. I was in a mud bog, to be honest. And it took me hours and hours and hours, and I had a tractor trailer stop to help, and finally got the tire change. It was completely shredded. But because you're running on, and you and I have talked about this, 40-inch tires and big 37s and all this stuff. And in my case, they were, I don't remember what size tire they were on, but they were probably 40s. When that thing, if it blows, think about the distance that you're dropping suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you were on a small tire and it blows out, you know, like a performance tire, it's not that big of a drop, right? You're just going to, you know, tilt a little bit. You drop this, you know, you a foot and a half,
especially on
going sideways.
Yeah, especially on a front tire, you could literally flip forward like that instead of sideways.
Yep. I was completely lost control. It was amazing. I didn't roll, and I just went off the road and, you know, skidded into the grass. But you know, anything could have happened there. So, you know, that's why when I tell people, like, you know, you got to be careful. Obviously, the faster you're going, the riskier it is. And but you know, I think I just wanted to bring that up today because I have a feeling that most of us think that our overland rigs are somewhat like Superman, that they're invincible, and they're not.
We all do at times.
Yep.
I want to talk about our wildlife in America. You know, there's been a spate of fatal or serious bear attacks nationwide in the past few months in Arizona, North Carolina, Colorado.
There just was another one in Montana.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. It was just this Saturday, matter of fact. I'm trying to look up the lady's name.
That was near Yellowstone, right? It was in southwestern Montana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saturday, a woman died from grizzly bear attack near West Yellowstone. Amy Adamson, 48, around 8 a.m. Saturday on the Buttermilk Trail, and that's about 8 miles west of Yellowstone.
Yep.
And she was working for during the summer. From the information I got from her mom and dad, she's supposed to be she's an outdoor person. This is what she did. But I also want to note that she was alone. She had no weapon or spray. So I'm never going to not tell people, don't go explore this world. I'm not going to tell you to be super fearful of animals. But do what's appropriate for your safety. Take some. So as much as it hurts me that she did this, it was possibly preventable.
I'll tell you what, I don't go on my property in Montana without both bear spray and a firearm. I wouldn't do it. No way. Now, I'm near Glacier, but I mean, it's definitely significant grizzly bear territory, as well as you know, mountain lions.
And I did a little research on the other attacks that have happened in the past couple of months. The first one was a 66-year-old man. He was building a cabin in a remote area. He was sitting in a chair by himself, remote, and the bear attacked him. Then in July, it was a 35-year-old sheep herder, no spray, no nothing. Plus, he's got a bunch of sheep with him. Anyway.
Yeah, that's attractive because that's food. That's called dinner.
Yeah, he was severely wounded, but he survived. And then he had a North Carolina guy, July 7th. He came face to face with a mother bear during his morning run. And he said he tried to defend himself with his arm, and the mom caught it right with her mouth. And he survived it. So these people survived it, but their injuries are never going to go away. All three.
I mean, and it's not limited to just the West Coast. I'm sitting here on the East Coast, and actually the community that I'm in here is, I just read an article yesterday. This is one of the highest populations of bears Now these are not grizzly bears; these are black bears. In all of the eastern side of the United States, is right where I'm sitting right here. I see them right here behind me in the yard. I see them almost on a daily basis, constantly.
Well, I posted a few weeks ago. I had a bear right at my mailbox.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
I can walk to a mountain called Cougar Mountain and Tiger Mountain. This is not the place to play.
That's right. No, and you also got to realize. I mean, I know people pretend to be experienced. Some people will say that I'm experienced. I've been doing this a long time. Blah 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 blah. The reality is, most of the time it happens, you are surprised, right? You don't know, you don't see it. You stumble upon. Oftentimes it's their babies. You stumble upon them by accident, and you turn a corner and there they are, and there's look at the tiny little bear cubs, and well, that's bad news, right? The mama's around somewhere. So you can be experienced all you want, doesn't mean that you don't have eyes in the back of your head.
Mm-hmm. So I hope the majority of the news we just reported, there's at least one thing people got out of it, is just think about your safety, whether it's your vehicle, where you travel to, how you travel, being aware of the wildlife. It's great to get out. That's what we're here for. We're encouraging you to get out, but be sensible about it. Be smart about it. And have some kind of sense of caution. Mother Nature is undefeated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just not just animals. Obviously, that's like, I'm looking out at this rain. It's natural things like rain and fire, and you got to take that stuff seriously.
So I went to Holy Toledo in Toledo, Oregon this weekend.
I know, and I want to hear all about it. It looked good from the pictures.
Bro, I usually have a ton of footage, and I do, but I don't have as much footage as normal because I was having such a good time. I was literally forgetting to pick up the camera. There were certain dishes that we made.
Now, don't tell me that it was a good time. What you're telling me really is that you guys were eating well. That's what it looked like.
Well, that was a large portion of it. It was kind of a showcase of the region. Producers of local produce makers, farmers, they brought in their green beans, their cucumbers, their tomatoes, different vegetables. There were picklers there who brought their pickled vegetables there. And then I think it was through the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure about that, but there was some kind of conglomerate that works for all of the different little small seafood groups that are along the coast. And we were literally able to order whatever seafood we wanted. Salmon, oysters, Dungeness crab, rockfish, Lincoln cod, and on and on and on. Fresh seafood that they flash froze, obviously, because they're transporting it. So we were getting days old fish transported to us right there to the thing. So everybody was cooking 4-star dishes with this fresh seafood, fresh vegetables. And then one night we had this big potluck. So, everybody was showing off their greatest dishes. So it was literally just a table full of all these delicious foods that everybody had created with the produce and seafood. And then there were all these little parties going on throughout the event. And you couldn't walk past and be like, hey, you need a drink? You'd be like, no, I'm going down there to have one. It was people wanted you to try their food. So it was very food centric.
Yeah, I just saw pictures posted from, you guys, and Chicks Do It Too, and Badass Brunette, and Journal of Lost Time, and my friend Daniel was playing. I saw that he was playing his music at night, and I didn't even know he was going to be there. I was like so disappointed that I wasn't there.
The entertainment, there were different types of entertainment. First of all, throughout the day, they would have like games, yoga, all types of eclectic little classes. There was holistic training. There was
Did I see something with an ice bath?
not an ice bath, but cold water.
Cold water, yeah.
They blindfold you and you had to walk down and pour the cold water on top of them, and then you voted for who did it best. They had a rolling contest, and I don't mean rolling on the ground. I mean rolling the green stuff.
Yeah.
Best joint. They had and the judges had a problem coming up with a winner because they were too high.
Oh man.
The liquor, we had so much liquor. We had a bar. And they actually had a bar if you wanted to go to the bar, but we had enough to drink right there. We had a big crowd right there. You should have been there, man. It was like the usual for us. The party was where we were at.
It looked like it was full up too, right? I mean, it was attended very well and it was full. And, and a lot of names that I know were there. A lot of people.
Oh yeah, people asked me about you, so I know that's a fact. What else? Oh, Mama Got Wheels, Sheila.
Yeah.
Our friend, she made margaritas all weekend.
I saw, and to prove that I was paying attention, I heard they were hibiscus margaritas.
Yes.
Yeah, I was paying attention.
So I got her this big bottle of tequila, right? And she had these fresh hibiscus and she put them in. And then we sat it in the sun, or they sat it in the sun, and it infuses the tequila. And then she made the margaritas with the tequila.
Wow. Very
subtle change in flavor, but a wonderful taste. Everybody loved the tequilas. We went through the tequilas in ice almost immediately. We had to go back and get ice and everything. We also were drinking old fashions, and then we just had regular shots of tequila, so all different kinds of top shelf whiskeys, juices, because you have people who didn't drink.
So let me ask you this question, since I've been to some of the events in the series before, and I don't believe you have. What was your impressions of that kind of an event? Like, meaning like, because I kind of call it was originally rooted in van life, right? And it's obviously expanded to schoolie and overland community and whatnot, but they're a little bit different. What do you think?
It's so weird. I think you have my computer tapped or something. Because that was my segue. I had an epiphany. So I need to bag up.
Okay.
You remember we met Patty Upton when we were at Overland Expo West. And I told you I was kind of having an epiphany about a lot of things I was doing, the direction I was going, and the priorities that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
This was a second epiphany for me.
Okay.
There needs to be an overhaul of this whole overland, nomadic travel, expo, rally, whatever thing, event, whatever you want to call it. We have gotten so far away from what it used to be like. Sometimes I forget. I mean, it's really, really changed. And going to this event, going to other events, it feels like a money grab the moment you arrive. The moment you are being directed to your campsite. You feel like it's a money grab. The merchandise, the vendors, everything.
The fanciness, the flags, the signage, the glossy pamphlet, the whole thing.
This event, Holy Toledo, it felt like it was all about us. Every decision made was, how will the people coming enjoy it? How will the people coming experience it? How will they feel about it? How, will they enjoy this? Will they like it? It seemed like every decision was towards us, not like, well, if we do this and we trim back on that and we cut off this, we can get more from them and give them less. And I don't even know how he turns a profit on the thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was asking you, because I've always felt that those events were about the community, were about the people that attend and getting them together to meet each other and to do stuff together and enjoy, whether it's eating or drinking or listening to music or playing games, and getting the community that the event is in connected to it.
Let's talk about the crowd. Because this was the most diverse crowd I've seen at an event like this. Yeah, like on one side of you might have two 60-year-old couple in their van. And then on the other side, I've got some 20-somethings dressed like hippies with their baby in a little hammock in front of them. Mm-hmm. It was just all over the place.
Yep.
And it was no judgment.
Right.
You know, the 60-year-olds didn't feel uncomfortable with the 20-year-olds, the 20-year-old, you know what I mean? Everybody was just totally flowing and vibing with everybody. It was just awesome, man.
And I'm glad you say that, because that's what I liked, coming from my perspective, coming in a what I'm going to call a large overland rig. And I've attended, so I unfortunately I didn't get to do this one, but I've done all the other ones. I've did the one in Wyoming, and I've done the one in Arizona, and I've done the one in Baja. So, and they're all, they all have their own little unique theme for sure, but they all have what you're summing up. It's the same kind of community. And what I like about that is exactly, there's no pretense, and everybody can hang together, and it doesn't matter whether it's Brian in his super cool Was a Bus, and to me in an overland rig, to you guys in a Jeep, say, to Storyteller Overland Sprinter vans. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. They're not segregated into sections, and that's the thing I noticed the most. And I was just curious how you felt.
I loved everything. The entertainment, it was way more interactive. Way more. And what I mean is, you go to other events, they may have a decent band. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case, but let's just go with that. They have a decent band, but everybody's sitting there like they're at an art auction. It don't matter how good a guitar player you are, how good you sing, they're just sitting there like they're at the opera or something.
I think we've become...
People were up and dancing.
Yes.
Yes. At this event, Holy Toledo, people were up and dancing. People were hugging. Couples were kissing. Even the band itself was interactive. They said, if you can play or you can sing, come on up. And it was some great, talented people that came up. Great, talented people that I enjoyed listening to. It was just a whole vibe, man. It was just a whole vibe.
Yeah.
If you weren't there, you missed it.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny, because I think you and I talked about this, or I asked that question of Josiah, who runs these, in our podcast a couple of weeks ago. And I said, I felt really weird. He almost had to beg me to go to the first one in Bisbee, Arizona, because I was just like, I'm not going to fit in at this thing. It's going to be weird. And, many of the friends that I've been traveling with now and hanging out with, I met at that event. Like, if you ask me the top 10 people that the people I've hung out outside of you over the last year, most of them I met at one of the Journal of Lost Time events, honestly.
Bro, I've been going back and forth in the DMs with somebody I just met there. They want me to, next time I'm in Oregon, they want to cook me dinner and they want me to film it.
Yep. So it's a great community out there. Mm-hmm. And if we're not doing anything but on this podcast, but letting people know, don't be afraid to go to something that you might think is not your cup of tea, meaning that if you've only attended, say, Overland events, or you've only gone to, Jeep 4x4 events or something like that, don't be afraid to go to a schoolie event. Don't be afraid to go to an event that sounds like it's all for vans, or, because they're not. The bottom line is they're simply not.
And let's stretch that out a little bigger, Mike. We're supposed to be talking to people who are travelers and overlanders and explorers, right?
Yes.
You should, go to all of that overland stuff and all of that or whatever, but go to Rockland, Maine, and go to the Lobster Fest. Go to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Go to the Balloon Fiesta. Yeah. Go to Lollapalooza. Go to Burning Man. Go to all these things, and don't just go to the ones that fit your vibe. Get outside your box and go to an event where you're the minority.
Yep.
Whether it be culturally, racially, or whatever, you're the minority.
Whatever, yeah.
Experience something different.
Yeah. It's kind of like
that's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Overland rig. I was the only, Bisbee, Arizona, a good example of that. I think I was the only big overland rig there. There were school buses, there were, ambulances, there were, vans, and you name it. I think I might have been the only one, certainly the only one with a big orange truck, but outside my comfort zone, never, so not only did I discover this series of events, and I'm not promoting this series necessarily, because there are other ones out there as well. I discovered the people that are involved in that kind of community, and I discovered the towns. I never knew about Bisbee, Arizona. I never knew about Lander, Wyoming. This fall, I'm debuting my new truck at Moon Landing in New Mexico. I've been to New Mexico. Yeah, I've been to Albuquerque a bunch of times. No, I have never been out where this event is.
So I have this on my list as things I want to see at the Plain Jane industry events. I want to see better locations and or facilities. You may not be able to get both. To get some of those better locations, there may be no facilities, and vice versa. But they need to think about these locations much better. Mm-hmm. A good example to me, like for a big industry one, is where we just went to. I think Redmond is an excellent example of, okay, it appears as though they literally thought about, does this work for what we're doing?
Yep. With such a big event, a big attendance. So obviously it's apples and oranges here, right? The event you attended this weekend is several hundred trucks, whatever.
And it's an industry event. It's an industry event. So it's not supposed to be like that.
Of course not. But Redmond is a great selection of location for an event that's going to be attended by 15,000 plus people. It's got facilities, it's got grocery stores, it's got, it's got, gas stations, it's got all that stuff. It's got restaurants and bars and breweries and whatnot. So I agree. The one thing I will say, because that what I want to see is, and this is not directed at Overland Expo, this is directed at all of these kind of, quote, industry events. Let's get the community involved more in the actual event. That's my big thing.
I got that written down.
Right?
I have that written down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing about the whole Holy Toledo is they were good at giving you reasons to walk around and socialize. You could go to some of these events and you can go hours in between having something on the schedule that makes you go, hey, let me get up and go over there. Mm-mm. They had stuff that even from the title, you may not have known what it was. You wanted to get up and go find out what was this crazy thing that they had going on.
Right.
People were constantly walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The only time you really had pause is where there were large amounts of people sitting at one time was breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, there was something happening. There was no reason to be hanging out at the truck.
And I didn't go to that event, but I imagine if it plays out any like the other ones, it wasn't a big sit around and talk about your truck, your drive shaft, what you strap to the side of the vehicle, and look at a bunch of vendors. That's not because the limited amount of sponsors that are involved in some of these events are active ones, right? They're doing stuff with the event, not flying flags and just, standing there trying to sell you something.
And that stuck out to me too. We both have a general idea of the kind of money these vendors put into some of these major events. They could go to events like this with a smaller budget and do so much more and be so much more impactful. That's my opinion.
Yeah, because you're going to make lifelong friends. And, once the vendor makes a lifelong friend, the likelihood that you're going to buy their XYZ item is much higher, right? And so you could go to an event that has 200 vehicles at it, and let's say you hit 10 of them, but they're lifetime people and they're going to continue, doing stuff. It's either that or you're trying to hand out business cards that, coming with 15,000 people coming by. It's harder for sure to connect with people. And
at a bigger event, it's a smaller percentage of that big number who are actually your audience, your people who are actually buying.
That's right.
That event is your audience. Everybody there had stickers from everywhere on their vehicles, and we're talking about the places they wanted to go. So, you've got your core audience right there.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's another point that I want to bring out here. I would argue that, how do I say this to make sense? I would say that those style events that you just went to, that are more cash, more laid back meet and greet, kind of the people that are attending, those are more overlanding events than the overlanding events are. Meaning that the people that attend that are actually doing it. The percentage is much higher that are actually doing it. And it's not a, quote, overlanding event.
Please define what you mean by actually doing it, because
they're actually doing it. A lot of those people are living on the road full time. They're traveling a lot. Like you said, they got stickers all over their coolers, all over their doors, all over the place, because they've gone to Glacier, they've gone to Alaska, they've gone to Baja, they've gone to wherever. They actually do it, and when they go with my sort of old saying, when they purchase something for their truck and whatever it is, and I'm sure I wasn't there, but I bet you you've seen just about every kind of rig there. It's not about the rig. It's about them getting there. And every time they think of upgrading something in their rig, they think about what the cost is and how that's going to impact their ability to go to Alaska, go to the Dempster Highway, go to Nova Scotia, whatever it is, because they're really about the adventure. And if anything, it should be called, I think I said this to Josiah, off tape, but like, I think you got to call some of these events got to be created and just call nomadic get together. You know what I mean? Because I think that the word nomad represents all of this better than any of those words like schoolie, van life, overland, 4x4, off-road, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on, right? All those words mean, yeah.
Yeah. When I hear the word nomad, it represents a nature that you have to me.
It represents the person, right? Because we talk about history, nomadic cultures, right? Nomadic cultures, that hunter-gatherers that moved around and moved to where the animals or the fields were. So we're picturing the people, as opposed to when I hear the word overland, I mean, just the way it is, I picture the truck.
I do too.
I picture Jeeps. I picture Land Rovers. Right? Mm-hmm. And if you say van life, well, of course we're picturing vans. And if you say schoolies, we're picturing school buses. Mm-hmm. But if you say nomad, now I'm thinking about the humans behind the vehicle. That's the difference.
And the industry drives separatism more so than anything else, because it wants you to be in the Jeep club, the Toyota club, the Unimog club, the RV, the van. They want you in one of them clubs.
That's right. And I hate to say it's almost like a caste system, because we're going to have immediately what we're going to do is we're going to compare the RV club with the Unimog club, which is with the storyteller van club, which, you know, you're going to compare all these clubs together. And as you and I have said a million times, and then you get to the more general, but overland club. And that word at this point has been like, in my opinion, has been hijacked.
Absolutely.
And overland means like, you know,
camping,
more money than brains or something. Mm-hmm. Did I just say that on our podcast? Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Myself included.
Somebody has to decide, I'm going to tell the truth. So let it be here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything against overlanding in concept. All I'm saying is that word has been somewhat hijacked by vendors, right?
I agree, and I agree and understand.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain, just in case somebody out there listening doesn't quite understand what I'm talking about.
So, one last thing, since we're talking about Holy Toledo and Toledo, Oregon, mm-hmm. I just want to show something real quick.
Yeah.
Because someone was talking to me about the coast and where Toledo was.
Yep.
Toledo is right outside of Newport. And it just made me think, because I recommended this book to them. And it's called the Oregon Coastal Access Guide.
Yep.
And this is a mile by mile guide. And there's plenty of books that are like a mile by mile guide. This is the one you need to get. This is it doesn't miss anything. So if you're traveling in Oregon along the Oregon coast, this is the book that I recommend to you. I've used it. I know what I'm talking about. This is the book to get. And
put that down, people, because if Phil says it's the book to get, it's the book to get.
And if you're like me, like this is the kind of book, I have it as a book, and I also have it Kindle so that I can always have it.
Nice.
One more book that I wanted to add on to that is, and I'm not sure if this comes in Kindle. If it does come in Kindle, I have it on Kindle too. This is a big, important book. This is called The Adventures on America's Public Lands.
I have that book, and I'm pretty sure that it's electronic as well.
Yeah. And it comes from the U.S. Department of the Interior, Bureau of Land Management. And it goes into detail about almost every place that's part of their network of land. So that means it's going to cover a lot of free land. It's going to cover a lot of free camping. It's going to cover almost every place you would dream about going that's a public land. Most of it is going to be, mostly West Coast.
Yeah.
But that's where the majority of it is. So it does skew toward the West Coast. But again, I highly recommend this book. And I'm going to use this as a segue. Our next event that we're both going to will be together is the Overland Expo Mountain West, August 25th through 27th. So you have still enough time if you want to go to that to get tickets or make whatever kind of arrangements for you to go. And it's time to start planning your trip. Now, I know that a lot of people who go to Overland Expo Mountain West, they incorporate trips like going to Colorado and Moab. And I get asked this all the time because I've been to both of those places quite a few times. How do I navigate? I've told you this a million times. Navigation is the thing that comes up the most as far as questions to me. Yeah, and I cheat. If I go to Moab, I use Fun Tracks, Moab, Utah back roads and four-wheel drive trails.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the book.
I don't know if that's there's a new version of that, I'm pretty sure. That might be it. That might be the new one.
No, I guarantee it's not the new one. That's at least 8 years old. And you're going to be in Colorado, definitely, if you're going to Mountain West. Colorado back roads, four-wheel drives, and both of these books are by Fun Tracks. Yep. So those are just some books I wanted to recommend to people. who are traveling to these events to the West Coast, I highly recommend it. People are always asking me how I found this place. How did I come up with this itinerary? Those are some of my cheat sheets that I just showed you. Now, obviously, there are other things that I use, but that's a mainstay. You said you've used them too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have both of those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
look, my general theory on that is the more maps, the more guide books, the more general travel books that you have read and carry with you, the better. Honestly, I mean, people laugh if you've watched old videos of me. And yeah, granted, this is a little bit before electronic, but if you watch old videos of me on my YouTube channel of us in like Africa and whatnot, if you look at the truck, I think that somewhere I put it in there, behind our heads, we had an entire bookshelf from one side of the truck to the other with books all the way across. I am a huge fan of bringing printed guidebooks and material and maps, even to today still.
Yeah, I had a fellow overlander kind of make fun at me because I have this big satchel that you get from Blue Ridge Overland. It's made to put a bunch of your big DeLorme maps in it.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you have so many maps? And I'm like, because I need a map for every state that I'm going through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can't just whip out your one atlas of America and expect it's just going to be any road that you really want to be on there. I mean, but basically that's got the interstate highway system on it, and that's about it. So come on. I've got a map. I literally have a map. I think you and I talked about this. I have a map of every single country in the Western Hemisphere right now. I have a map of every province in Canada, every state in the United States, and every single country through Central and South America. I got piles of them. Too many that I could take. To be honest, I can't. I mean, I would love to be able to take them, do the Pan American, have every map with me, but I don't know that I can carry that much. I mean, it's that much.
That's a lot.
A lot.
And what I've even found,
I have studied them.
No two maps are the same. That's why I carry so many maps. Even with electronic maps, every map is not the same. Like I'll find trails on Gaia that I don't find on Garmin. I'll find on Garmin that I don't find on Gaia. Same thing with the paper maps. I've seen on one map where the trail ends, and then I'll look on another one and it keeps on going for 15 more miles.
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally true. Yep.
All right. So what are you doing at Overland Expo West? I'm sorry, Mountain West.
I have no idea.
Okay. So for you newbies on the podcast, Mike is so knowledgeable on so many different countries and so many travel routes. And obviously he's a great do-it-yourselfer. He's on version 2 of this truck. So they fill in all their instructional stuff to other people, and then they just kind of throw him together a schedule at the end because they know he's going to know whatever it is.
We don't know if that's a plus or a minus, but yeah.
I thought maybe you might have learned.
I don't know. I have nothing. I have
so you'll know Wednesday of that week, right?
Yeah, we're still a month out, right? I mean, I definitely will know with in the next 29 and a half days.
Have you ever attended the Mountain West?
I have not. That's the only expo that I have not.
So I went to the first one. This is my return. I
missed. This is only the third one.
Mm-hmm. So what's your mindset going in? Are you curious about the town?
My general research on it shows that looks like the facility, anyways, is similar-ish to say the Pacific Northwest, like the setup. I would say. I know the area, having traveled through there a fair amount. I think I don't know what my mindset's gonna. That's a good question. I think it's going to be a lot of. It's going to be my second Overland Expo that I'm flying into. So I will not have a truck there either. I will have a truck at East. Well, crossing fingers. Anyways.
Well, be prepared for it to be hot.
Well, yeah. I mean, we just experienced the Pacific Northwest. That wasn't exactly cool. So, yeah, we just pretend we're at that again, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, it's going to be hot like that.
Yeah.
I had something I wanted to ask you. No, that was it, Mike.
That was it. That was a good podcast. We covered everything as usual. And it was not even controversial today, I don't think.
So our next podcast, hopefully, and I have to talk to you about this off. We are going to have a very, very special guests.
Excellent.
Coming in the next couple of weeks. It will be a few gentlemen on the show with us. It'll be, the only hint I'll give is they'll be on the East Coast where you're at. And I'm just putting it out there. In a couple of weeks, you do not want to miss the podcast. We have very special guests on.
I would say at this point, you don't want to miss any podcast.
That's correct. That's correct. But we have something that we're putting in the works that has probably never happened in Overland podcast history. You definitely want to look out for that. I'll be giving more information in the coming days. So what's going on with your truck, Mike?
Truck is back from the paint shop. It is now looks almost identical to the truck you see behind me. And it's going to go back to the metal shop next week to finalize some stuff that I got. We're building this. You can see the rack, the system on there. We got to make that on the new truck and a couple of things. And then I'm going to be working full time on the inside, making my house.
I was watching your video last week. That was great information. Are you going to be putting out information periodically about the build as you continue?
It's going to be a video. There was not one this week, but there will be one virtually every Tuesday from here on out now, because I've got a lot of film in the bank. So I'm going to be updating people weekly on everything that's going into it.
So what are they going to get out? I mean, are you just going to be talking about the vehicle or?
No. I'm going to be talking about like why I'm doing things, what works, what doesn't, showing you how I install my electric system, the water systems, the solar, building out the bathrooms and, putting in the kitchen and you name it. We're going to be talking about it.
And you kind of go into why that you made those decisions. It's not like just a how-to. It's more like this is.
I kind of like to show people like three things, how to, why I'm choosing to do it this way. And third, kind of what the ballpark expenditure is, because I'm very cognizant of what people's budgets are. So, some of the things I do, admittedly, are going to be more than some people want to spend. But then there's other things I do that are probably spending a whole lot less money than people out there are doing, and they don't even realize they could be doing it cheaper. So I do like to focus a little bit on the economics of it as well.
And you used the right word. I wouldn't have you change the word, but it still makes it, when you use the word cheaper, it almost sounds like when you step into this vehicle, it's going to look cheap.
Right.
And I advise you guys to go on his channel and take a look at the previous vehicle, or you can even right here on this channel, you can look at the rig walk around. And there's like one that's got millions and millions of views from somebody. What is it?
Tiny House Giant Journey has about 5 million views on the walk around of this truck.
Yeah. Look at, because it looks like a palace. So I want to make sure that people don't think cheap in cost means cheap in looks and what you're getting.
Oh, and let me highlight that, because sometimes I get negative stuff like, well, great, this thing costs $100,000. That's not cheap. I don't have where do you get $100,000? Well, okay. I'm not saying that it's you're going to buy this at the discount bin at Walmart. I'm not saying that it's cheap like that. What I'm suggesting is I'm building a vehicle that is going to be comparable to a vehicle that costs 5 to 10 times as much. So what I'm saying is, if I spend, and the truck that you're looking at behind me right now was close to $100,000. So that's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. I understand. However, if you compare the water capacity, the solar, the battery system, the comforts that went into it, it easily competes with a truck that sells between $500,000 and $1 million.
Very easily.
And you can go buy that. So
there's no difference.
Comparatively, it's cheap. And yeah, it's not your dad's Buick that you're going to get for $200 at a yard sale. I'm not saying that.
And I have witnessed some of those $250,000 vehicle owners come check your vehicle out and their mouth is dropping.
Right. So that's kind of what I like to show in the videos, is how to. I also appreciate that not everybody is either knowledgeable enough or has the time or, the comfort level to build everything themselves. And so, I mean, I'm cognizant of the fact that, one of the reasons I can do it, I'm going to use that word cheaper, is that I'm doing it myself. Right. So, if you've got to pay professionals, and I'm not a professional, if you got to pay professionals to do it, now you're looking at, just like if you took your car to the auto shop, you're going to pay $100 to $150 an hour or whatever you're going to pay. Right. I mean, this is the way it works in the world.
So just to surmise what you said, it sounds like you're going to get details. You're going to get visual details. You're going to get you're going to get explanations. It's not going to just be one of those pretty put together.
No. The last truck, I largely did most of the video when it was complete. So it was I'll call it the pretty picture stuff. No, this thing, you're going to see it from how it is naked now to finished. You're going to see the whole process, the behind the scenes, the inside the cabinets, everything.
All right, Mike, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think we
covered a lot of stuff today.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys finish your drive wherever you're going, listen to this podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, guys, you already know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully I'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.